It's officially confirmed, folks, as this entire season, the Toronto Raptors had one specific goal, said by Masai Ujiri himself, in order to facilitate that rebuild that the team started midway through last year. That forced Darko Rajaković to make some tough decisions in order to maximize the team's lottery odds, in order to get a star out there in this upcoming NBA draft. But there was some concerns that the main piece, the guy that we've memed to death, the guy that we've talked about after every single win, after every single loss, after every single decision the Toronto Raptors made over the course of the season, Cooper Flagg. There were concerns about his NBA future, and now we have some major updates in regards to what we can expect from Cooper Flagg coming into the NBA for next season. So we'll break down what these updates are, what's going on with the NBA draft, and frankly, how this impacts Raptors fans' approach, view of this NBA draft lottery and the Raptors. Big night in terms of, big night for the Toronto Raptors rebuild. So lots of stuff to break down in this video. But before we do, folks, again, saying it again, we are out here on Spotify. We are out there on Apple Music. So if you want to listen to Raptors Digest on the go, you're enjoying the daily Toronto Raptors coverage and don't want to miss a single thing. Even when, you don't have access to YouTube, the data's getting cooked or whatever it is, make sure to check us out there on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your podcast, and leave a 5-star review if you're enjoying the podcast. But let's dive into it, because basically anyone that's watched this channel is aware to who Cooper Flagg is, the mission of capturing the flag. The Toronto Raptors, they lose enough games, they have a decent enough odds to land the top draft pick in this year's NBA draft. However, there was some concerns. There were some legitimate doubts about Cooper Flagg actually coming to the NBA for this upcoming season, as he had some interesting quotes over the course of this year, coming out and saying, pretty coy, that I want to come back next year, referring to Duke out there, midway through last season. But this was taken, some people took it very seriously, some people didn't. I didn't take those comments too to heart, just give it, top overall picks. They usually come out when they have the opportunity to make a ton of money. So that was one thing that was brought up a ton over the last, few months in regards to Cooper Flagg actually coming to the NBA. And it's only fuel was added to the fire in more interviews as he come out and said, I still feel like a kid. This is the only way I've ever known college. That's how I see it. I really wouldn't know how kids felt before, and if this feels different, if this feels more like being a professional. I mean, it's the same thing for kids in high school too. Getting paid a lot of money, I don't know. I feel pretty normal. So he's coming out and saying, even though, there's rules lifted, there's adjustments in terms of these guys at college making some actual money out there, he still feels like a kid. And that was some comments construed, he still feels like a kid, he's not ready to be a pro, all that. So some people were going on with that. And then to add more fuel to the fire, he came out and said, I always wanted to play in college at the highest level, compete for a national championship. That sort of thing is what I dreamed about. So Cooper Flagg, the top NBA draft prospect, saying all these things, had a lot of people worried he might not actually make that jump into the NBA. And frankly, after the Duke Blue Devils ended up losing in the NCAA tournament, despite having a very, very strong roster, despite being favorites coming into, a lot of people had Duke winning their bracket, they ended up getting knocked out. More people like, he didn't win. He wants to fulfill that promise or wants to fulfill that goal of winning a national championship. But news did come out today that essentially Cooper Flagg did declare for the NBA draft. Cooper Flagg is considered the favorite to be selected number 1 overall in the 2025 NBA draft. So he put all of this to rest. He put all of those concerns, he put all of that stress that Raptors fans may have had if we got the number 1 overall pick. Cooper Flagg is declaring for the NBA draft. Now, what does that mean for the Toronto Raptors? Because, of course, we're a Toronto Raptors-centered channel, and everything that's going on. Because the Toronto Raptors right now, if we take a look at it, we showed this screenshot a ton here. The team has a 7.5% chance of getting the number 1 overall selection. So, again, not lucratively high odds, but relative to all the other teams, it's not that unfavorable. It's not in a position where we should really say, hey, there's no chance, there's no shot. But it is, however, unlikely for Cooper Flagg to end up on the Toronto Raptors, a 7.5% chance out of 100. So just under, 1 out of 10 times, that's you're going to be landed Cooper Flagg. So what impact would Cooper Flagg have if the lottery balls do fall? We'll talk about how this adjusts the rest of the NBA draft, but specifically, Flagg coming to the Toronto Raptors, because we do have a very interesting roster here now at this point that does have a lot of players at the same position. You have Brandon Ingram, you have Scottie Barnes, who are both players that need the ball in their hands, that are similar size, play that big wing position out there on the Raptors core. And if Cooper Flagg is brought into this team, he is very much a guy that can play a ton of defense. He doesn't need the ball in his hands a ton. He can impact the game in a multitude of other ways. So I think Scottie, Ingram, and Flagg out there on the wings would be a very, very dynamic trio. Defensively, I think it would be very effective, especially with the jumps Scottie Barnes took over the course of the season. Cooper Flagg is a very, very strong defender coming into the NBA. So that combo of Scottie Barnes and Cooper Flagg, they'd complement each other so well. And then you have Brandon Ingram, who's that more natural bucket getter. That trio would be a very, very tough, long, dynamic wing tandem to deal with out there in the NBA. However, this would lead to some concerns for roster balance, roster construction, and the guy that I've brought up a ton, who I do not want traded, even in the case we do land Cooper Flagg, is RJ Barrett, who feels like he'd be the odd man out, because you have Flagg, you have Ingram, and you have Scottie Barnes out there, all going to be starting out there on the wing position. And then, of course, you're not going to run Flagg, you're not going to run Scottie out there at the center spot, so Jakob Poeltl is going to be in that position. And then, RJ in theory could run your point guard position or run Scottie Barnes up point guard and then RJ Barrett out there on the wings, but you are giving $32 million to Immanuel Quickley over the next, till 2028, 2029, and you are not giving him that money in order to be a bench player. I'm sorry, and as much as it hurts, as much as it's tough to say, Masai Ujiri just isn't going to do that. Now, you could say, RJ Barrett's making $25 million. You're not giving him that to be a bench player, but we've heard so many rumors about Masai Ujiri shopping RJ Barrett, shopping these guys out there on the wing. And then at that natural 2 position, there's other guys on the roster that sort of come into play. So you have Gradey Dick, who, of course, cooled off a little bit at the end of the season, was dealing with some injuries, but was extremely hot to start the year. You have Jacoby Walter, who, when he got extended run, when he came back healthy at the back half of the season, he was really, really showing out during his rookie year for this Raptors squad. So you have a couple guys that play that shooting guard position. Ochai Abaji's another kind of forward out there at that spot that's going to demand minutes over the next season. That's a lot of guys that are going to command run, that are going to command positional fit, that, frankly, this, adding Cooper Flagg to the mix, someone's going to get pushed out. And money-wise, cap-wise, whatever's happening with this, it feels like RJ's that guy from the reports, and it kills me to say that I don't agree with it. I think RJ Barrett was probably our best player over the past season, so it's a really, really tough spot for the Toronto Raptors to be in. So Cooper Flagg coming to this team, again, I don't want to say it's a long shot. There's a 7.5% chance, but it does lead to some concerns in regards to the overall roster balance going into the future. Again, good problems, phenomenal problems to have for your team, but it is something that we have to be mindful of if Cooper Flagg does come in. Like, I've talked about his skill set, how good he is over the course of this year, but I wanted to get a little bit more into the weeds in terms of him coming in and how it would impact the Toronto Raptors squad. But of course, this, regardless if we get the number 1 overall pick, if we don't, again, the Raptors are most likely to land with the number 8th overall selection. Essentially, Cooper Flagg declaring for the draft still has some positive impacts on the team, because essentially when you're in the top 7, 8, there's a list, there's a lineup in terms of guys that are going to go to specific order. So everyone is pushed back sort of a peg. The Raptors have a more talented guy available to that 7, 8, whatever pick we're picking. 2, 3, 4, whatever it is. The Raptors have more options, even if they don't land that number 1 overall selection in Cooper Flagg. So whether it's Malawach, whether it's Edgecombe, whether it's any of these guys that we'll talk about over the course of the season, this does have some serious impacts on the Toronto Raptors' approach to this year's NBA draft. So let me know what you guys think about all this in the comment section down below. You guys best think as far. Subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Anyways, I'm signing out. Cheers.